Hey TCAT fans, Acorn TV is your home for streaming British crime dramas and mysteries. It's the only place you can catch up and stream the newest season of the UK hit series Line of Duty, a cat and mouse thriller from the creator of Bodyguard that takes a probing look into police corruption. Watch the first episode of season 1 for free at acorn.tv/unsolved and start a free 30-day trial of Acorn TV with the code UNSOLVED. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 113 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibby. What's going on, brother?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I had a very good week. I'm in a great mood.
Fantastico?
Yeah, fantastico. I like the way you use that.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to talk some true crime.
You just want to get on it.
Well, we just did a whole episode of true crime. Let's talk some more true crime.
Let's just keep it rolling.
We just recorded what is out right now on True Crime All the Time. We're talking about a very fascinating murder of a 22-year-old college student in North Dakota, Drew Dardeen.
Yeah, it was good.
There was a lot of layers here. You know, you had geographical issues. You had things about this killer that, oh my gosh, just rubbed you and I the wrong way.
It did.
The entire episode, and I think it will do the same to some people about, again, people doing and committing heinous crimes. Okay, here's your slap on the wrist. Go back out in society so that you can do the same crime 2, 3, 4 times. Eventually, you got to realize that this person's going to keep doing the same bad thing again and again.
Yeah.
Whatever measures you're taking to correct their behavior, it's not working.
Very frustrating case.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Unfortunate events.
All right, so let's give our new Patreon supporter shout outs. We had Denise Manty.
Hey, Denise.
Carrie Capps.
Hey, Carrie.
Danielle Bush.
Hey, Daniel.
Lisa Rodriguez.
Hey, Lisa.
Lionel Garcia.
Ooh, Lionel.
Marcus Molinen.
Hey, Marcus.
Z. Yep. Josie Claire.
Hey, Josie.
Rachel Lawley.
Hey, Rachel.
Anna Benedikova Malden.
Hey, Benedikova something Malden.
Malden. Heather Flaherty.
Hey, Heather.
Anna Hay.
Hey, Anna.
Kathleen Rosavink. Brittany Batten.
Hey, Brittany.
Jenny Tolanen.
Hey, Jenny.
Misha Conine.
Ooh, Misha.
Sheila Dirk.
Sheila.
Morgan Wicks.
Hey, Morgan.
Alika Purdue.
Alika?
Yeah.
Like you got a leak going on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kylie Gargalis.
Hey, Kylie, yes. Good
Sydney
friend.
Moore.
Hey, Cindy.
Nicole Deutscher. And Constance Mellott.
Hey, Constance.
All right, if we go back into the vault.
How far are we going back?
I say we go back as far as humanly possible. We selected Beatrice Vasquez, longtime supporter of the show.
Appreciate that.
We very much appreciate the new support, the continued support on Patreon. We had some great PayPal support as well. Heather Allen, Molly Hildebrandt, Raven Marks, and Phyllis Ekoff.
Wow, that was a lot. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you very much. I finally made my plane reservations to New Orleans, Gibbs, for CrimeCon.
Yeah? You got flight?
Got flight.
Cheapo Air?
And I did not select Cheapo Air, and it was not cheap, believe me.
Yeah.
A little more expensive than I had planned on it being.
I still need to get mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the one on Cheapo Air.
I'm not sure there was Cheapo Air.
No, I need to book that after we're done with this.
Yeah, probably do. But we are still working on And I've had a couple of folks reach out to me that are going to say that they would help with the meetup.
Oh, that's good.
But we can use as many people as possible. So if you're going and you want to help us kind of formulate this, put it together, definitely reach out. You can email or, message on social media, however. All right. Are you ready to get into this Unsolved episode?
I am.
We are talking about the Dardeen family massacre. This happened in the late 80s, 1987. 29-year-old Russell Dardeen, he went by Keith. We'll probably call him Keith.
Yeah.
And his wife, 30-year-old Elaine, and their 2-year-old son, Peter, bought a mobile home in 1986.
You know what I noticed there is that he, like you, married an older woman.
That is true. My wife is 19 days older than me.
Yeah.
I like to remind her during that 19-day period.
Yeah, only during that stretch.
Only really during that stretch.
Hey.
And even then, it's a risky proposition.
I would think so.
It doesn't curry me any favors. Let's put it that way.
You just like
I get a kick out of it, but she does not.
You're like, I'll pay for it later. I know I will.
I think sometimes you have to make a calculated decision. It's a risk versus reward thing. The reward is I get a kick out of it.
Isn't all marriage a calculated decision?
That is true.
Yeah.
The risk is I could pay for it for long periods of time. So they bought this home in 1986. They rented the land that the mobile home sat on. It was at a farm in the town of Ina, Illinois. And Keith had just landed a job as the plant operator at a water treatment plant at the Wren Lake Water Conservancy District.
Well, it's important to have clean drinking water.
No, and it sounds like a pretty good job.
Yeah, I would think it would be a decent job.
It sounds like it. Plant operator.
Yeah.
To me sounds, plant operator sounds like it's pretty high up on the food chain, I would think.
You're a podcast operator.
I am.
And you have the bigger chair, so you are higher up on the food chain.
So the plan was for Elaine and Peter to join Keith once Elaine was able to find a job. And she did find one. In a couple of months later, at an office supply store in nearby Mount Vernon, Keith and Elaine took part in a local Baptist church band. Keith was a singer. Elaine played the piano. And then in 1987, Keith and Elaine found out that they were going to have a second child. And they made the decision early on. If the child was a boy, they were going to name him Ian. If the child was a girl, they were going to name her Casey.
Did you do that? Did you pre-pick your names if they were this or that?
No, I waited till we found out exactly what the gender of the baby was.
Yeah.
And then I went through my very strange process of selecting names.
You going to share that strange?
No, I think, and my wife and I were on the same page. We didn't want names like Mike, like you and I have, right? Everybody's name is Mike. It seems like from our generation.
It does.
So we set about picking names that were a little different, but not so different that nobody could pronounce them or, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Teachers would mispronounce them every year. And that's just what we did.
Yeah. So you selected the name for both?
No, I selected one and my wife selected the other, I think, is how it worked out.
Yeah. No disagreements on what name?
No.
That's good.
No, we did have a boy's name picked out.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Just as if the doctors were wrong?
No, for some reason we had the boy's name picked out, but not the girl's.
Okay.
Before we knew what my wife had it picked out a long time ago. So.
Gotcha. Well, as long as it wasn't Mike Jr.
It definitely was not.
Yeah.
So they have this second child on the way. And apparently there was quite a bit of crime and violence going on in the town of Ina at the end of the 80s. And they made the decision that they wanted to leave. They wanted to get out of that area, move back home, and raise their kids there.
Yeah, this town, the county that it was in, just the violence was devastating to people. They just couldn't believe the amount of crime that they were seeing, and this is kind of a rural part of Illinois. So I get it. I mean, you don't want to raise your kids in that type of an environment. You want to be able to think that you don't need to worry about your kids when they're outside all the time.
All the time, yeah. And you mentioned the fact that it's a pretty rural area. I would have thought the crime rate would have been fairly small. At least it is around here, right? In the smaller towns, the more rural areas. In just a 2-year period, Jefferson County had experienced over 15 murders. It sounds to me like a lot for what I believe to be a relatively small county, but these 2 years of killing essentially got kicked off by a young man named Thomas Odell, who murdered his parents and all 3 of his siblings. So that's 4 murders right there.
Yeah. And this is brutal what he did.
He took some LSD, decided to grab a butcher's knife, and stab his father to death. That could have been the end of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No.
He sat in the house with his dead father, waiting patiently for his mom to get home. When she got home, he stabbed her several times in the neck until she died, and then he waited again for his 2 brothers and his sister to get home. As each of these siblings arrived, he would stab or strangle them to death.
Nothing like saying, hey, brother, hey, sister, how was your day? Come here.
It's a very brutal family massacre. Another one, right? We're getting ready to talk about the Dardeen family massacre. This was another one that happened, 2 years earlier? Thomas Odell was found guilty and was given the death penalty. Now, that was later overturned to a life sentence, but think about it. How scary to be living in that area at that time, and then to later, within, the next couple of years, have 12 more homicides.
And just to think a little more on that, we're going to talk about what are we calling Dardeens? We're going to talk about the Dardeens. So think if you're living in that county still, to go from this one all the way through the Dardeens.
In a 2-year period, essentially, about a 2-year period.
Pretty scary.
Now, it was 32 years ago, so I think if you're living there now, you may not be as worried.
No.
But if you were there in the late 80s,
man,
Katie barred the door.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know what we're doing here. Let's pack up and go.
Well, and I think that's what Keith was thinking, right? Something's going on in this place. I can't raise my family here, which is why he put the mobile home up for sale. And it wasn't just the Dardeens, right? Many other families in the rural areas of the county, they were fearful. Everyone was on edge with all of the violence.
Probably had their shotguns by the door.
I'm sure they did. And for Keith, I think it all peaked in May of 1987 when a 10-year-old girl was sexually assaulted and murdered.
It's crazy for all this violence to be happening where you're living.
Yeah, if you were talking about downtown LA, if you're talking about New York City and saying, this murder happened then, this murder happened, within a short period of time, you probably wouldn't blink an eye because of the sheer number of people living in those areas. Everybody's crowded in. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of murders just by the sheer number of people.
Right.
This is happening in an area that is pretty sparsely populated. And I think that's why it jumps out. So Keith is at the point after this murder of the 10-year-old girl where he's just isolating his family from everyone as best that he could. They just didn't trust anyone at that point. And I don't blame him. I don't think I would have either.
I think it's kind of like how it is walking up to your door now. The floodlights come on, you hear the voice over the speaker, and you just know if you don't say the right passwords, you can't take the next step forward.
There ain't nobody taking a step forward coming in the house.
No.
You're barely able to get in.
I'm like, maybe this is the time that I'm not going to get past security.
On November 18th, 1987, the water treatment plant where Keith worked, they called his home. No answer. Then they called his dad. Then his mom. His mom and dad were divorced by that point. They just kept calling people. They were looking for Keith because he didn't show up for work that morning.
Yeah, and he's the type of guy that would always be at work, on time, if not a little bit ahead of time. So when you have somebody like that doesn't show up, it's a reason to be concerned.
Yeah, he was a conscientious worker. Keith's dad said he just didn't miss work. The other thing his dad said, it was not like him to not answer the phone if he was home. So his dad called the county sheriff and he asked the sheriff to meet him at Keith's house because he had a spare key and I guess he wanted some backup. He was going to go into the trailer, the mobile home.
Right.
But he wanted the sheriff out there and the sheriff agreed. So the two men arrived and they opened the door to the mobile home. And what they saw, Gibbs, it's almost unimaginable. They found 3 dead bodies. And Gibbs, I think we have to give a warning. This is about as gruesome as it gets.
It's pretty bad.
Elaine was bound with duct tape and gagged. She had been beaten to death with a baseball bat. This was so brutal, this attack, that it caused her to go into labor.
Yeah.
And she actually gave birth while she was being beaten.
Yeah.
Is what they believe.
Yeah. She gave birth to a little girl.
Their young son, Peter, was also gagged and bound with duct tape. And he too had been beaten to death with the same baseball bat.
He's just a little toddler to be beaten with a baseball bat. I don't understand it.
Yeah, both of these very horrific. And it's almost hard to say, Gibbs, but it's almost as if they pale in comparison to the third body because it's the newborn baby girl that Elaine had just delivered. Who could hit this newborn baby with a baseball bat? Because that's what happened. All 3, Elaine, Peter, and the newborn baby girl, were beaten to death with baseball bat. All 3 bodies were placed in the same bed together.
So they can be cruel enough to beat all 3 of these individuals with a baseball bat, but yet then say, let me pick them up and put them in the bed and lay them side by side. I don't get that. I don't know how you can be so cruel and brutal, but then try to put the mom and their kids together. I don't get it.
Well, if you're looking at it from and I think normally police look at that and they would think that, okay, it denotes it's probably a family member, a very close friend, somebody like that, right? That would have a relationship with these people, that would care enough about them to, after they've committed this horrible act, want to put them in bed together. Now, we haven't talked about Keith yet because the sheriff and Keith's dad, they couldn't find him. He wasn't inside the mobile home.
Nowhere to be found.
They're looking for him everywhere. Also, the family car, a red 1981 Plymouth, was missing.
So you can imagine what the sheriff and the other investigators there had to think. First thoughts, right? Like you said, it had to be somebody that cared. He's not around. So was Keith the one that did this?
Yeah, as an investigator, I don't know what else you could think. He's gone. The rest of the family is dead, and they've been placed in the bed as if by somebody who had feelings for them or wanted them to feel comfortable or whatever you want to say.
And on top of that, the family vehicle's gone.
Yeah.
Who else would drive the family vehicle besides somebody that belongs to the family?
So at this point, the sheriff and his deputy, they're on the hunt for Keith Dardeen. They decide to check his mom's house. I think they felt this would be a logical hiding spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, because they have his dad there with him, so they know that he's not hiding out at his dad's house. His dad's the one that got the police involved in the first place.
So they searched her house inside and out. They searched her property. They didn't find anything. But that same day, they learned the fate of Keith Dardeen. It was some local hunters in a nearby town, a town not far from the mobile home at all. They found Keith dead in the woods.
Yeah, he was shot 3 times. But more than that, he was found with his penis cut off.
It's just brutal all the way around.
Yeah.
It's a very brutal set of murders. They found the red Plymouth later that day in a very strange place. It was parked outside of a police station in Benton, Illinois. This is about 10 miles south of where the Dardeens lived. When they found it, the entire interior of the car was covered in blood. So investigators are trying to piece this thing together, and they believed that the killings occurred the day before. And then the coroner came out and said that Keith died within an hour of the rest of the family.
I still just can't get over how brutal each one of these murders were.
Well, they were. All 4 were brutal, but look at them separately. Look at the 3 inside the mobile home. Look at Keith separately.
Yeah.
What's running through my head is, why were 3 of the family members killed inside the mobile home? Why were they kind of laid out as if to make them comfortable?
Right.
But yet Keith shot 3 times, which I believe probably would have killed him if it didn't already kill him. Why go the extra step of cutting the man's penis off, and why leave him in the woods? Obviously, you're not showing any care for him.
Right.
So I just want to keep that in mind as we're going through this story. I think it adds, or it's a component, I should say, to the mystery.
So it's like the person or persons that did this cared about the wife and the kids, maybe felt bad in a sense, but not about him.
I think you could make that argument.
Yeah.
They felt like they had to do what they did to them, but afterwards, maybe they felt bad about what they did.
Yeah.
And so that final act of, laying them, not, we could be reading too much into it.
Sure.
But I think that's something police look at for sure. The local sheriff enlisted the help of the Illinois State Police. I mean, frankly, they had just way more experience, right? In this type of murder scene. I don't know how many people have experience with this specific type of murder scene, because this is not one that happens.
This is not your common.
This is not very common. So between everyone working on it, there were about 30 detectives on this case in the beginning. Pretty quickly, they interviewed over 100 people, and they had some persons of interest in the beginning. One was a coworker of Keith's that had some issues with him at work. There was another man that was a nearby neighbor of the family that police looked at. But both of these men were cleared pretty quickly. During the search of the home, police found a small amount of marijuana. Nothing that would probably rile them up.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Or concern them as to being related to the murders.
Right. And I was thinking about, the fact that you didn't get along with somebody at work, or you didn't get along with your one neighbor. I mean, I guess the police are going to look into that, but I mean, I can think, I know you have a neighbor you don't, not dislike, but you don't care for his lawn mowing schedule.
That is true.
But, it's not somebody that you would, I don't think you would kill him, No.
You know what
I'm
No,
saying?
I don't care enough about it. I mean, I don't care if mushrooms grown as crack, but the whole situation doesn't irk me to the point,
Right.
and nothing really does, right? We're kind of
And same with, we both
laughing about it, but
have worked at the same place before, and there might be somebody that could irritate you a little bit.
or even a lot.
Or a lot. But why are you looking at me that way?
No,
Just because you're not there no more. What do you mean? Was it me?
But to the point where you would think about murdering them, what I would add on to that is, let's say you were
Right.
going to either murder a coworker or murder a neighbor or something like that. Couldn't you do it without slaughtering the whole family?
Absolutely.
In the way that this happened?
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have to rule some of that out, because why do that to that extreme?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
No need.
One thing investigators noted was that, the suspect or suspects, whoever committed the murders, they had some time at the trailer. For one thing, we've talked about it. They essentially tucked 3 family members into bed. That would have taken a little bit of time. It appeared to investigators that after the family was put in bed, the crime scene was cleaned to some extent. So obviously that takes time.
Yeah.
So it definitely seemed as if the killer or killers, inside that mobile home had no sense of urgency, Gibbs, which naturally leads you to believe that for whatever reason, they were not worried about Keith Dardeen coming home. Does that mean that they knew exactly where he was and that's why there was no reason to worry about him?
Well, it could be
something.
Yeah.
It has to be something like that. If you're going to wipe out a wife and 2 kids, there's a dad somewhere. The last thing you want is him busting through this mobile home door while you are doing your thing, you're cleaning up. Whoever it was in there knew that that wasn't going to happen. All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsors. Listen, America has fallen in love with Best Fiends, the 5-star rated mobile puzzle game. I've heard from a number of people who love it. Discover the world of Best Fiends and its cute characters in this fiendishly fun, free to download mobile puzzle game. This is a totally different type of puzzle experience. Yeah, you're going to solve thousands of fun puzzles, but you're going to collect tons of cute characters. There's this amazingly epic storyline that keeps you engaged the whole time. We're talking about thousands of hours of gameplay. This is a game that's easy to learn, but difficult to master. It's the perfect casual game. You can play it alone, but you can also play it with family and friends. And you can play offline, anywhere. I'm not that far. I'm on level 14, but I'm blown away by the visual style of Best Fiends. It's no wonder it's a 5-star rated game. So check this out. Solve thousands of fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters on Best Fiends, the 5-star rated mobile game on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Download Best Fiends free on the Apple App Store or Google Play today. That's Best Fiends, just like friends without the R. Best Fiends. And next, let's talk about ant fannies. Do you have roaches? You got ants? How about fruit flies? Doesn't mean you're a bad, dirty person. What it means is you have a really attractive house to bugs. Don't punish yourself with harsh, nasty chemicals just to get rid of household pests. That's what Ant Fanny's pest solutions are for. They take on those nasty bugs with essential oils and plants, not the scary stuff. And it really works. Ant Fanny's Fly Punch is a must for gardens, farmers markets, or kitchen compost types. Just open the jar and watch fruit flies die. The Fly Punch and all of Ant Fanny's pest remedies are anything but safe for pests, but super safe for loved ones, both the human variety and our beloved pets. They have a DEET-free, worry-free mosquito repellent spray. They have everything you need. So kill them with kindness. Check out Ant Fanny's full pest line at antfannies.com/bugs and use coupon code TCAT at checkout for 20% off your entire order. So residents of Jefferson and Franklin counties, who we've already talked about, right, have dealt with over a dozen homicides in the preceding 2 years. They were arming themselves, shotguns, rifles. They had them in their trucks. They had them by the front door, like you said, Gibbs, had guns next to their beds.
The rumors behind this murder went rampant. They had rumors about drug deals gone bad. There was rumors about gambling debts. There was a rumor about possible affair gone bad. I mean, there was all type of rumors floating around there. And you know how small communities are. It doesn't take long for all the rumors to get out and It's like that old telephone game, right?
Yeah, no, rumor mill can spread very quickly, but there's one of those that I want to touch on. And it's the rumor that this was related to an affair gone wrong. Because I keep going back to Keith. Why cut the man's penis off? Now, if he was sleeping with your wife, would you shoot him and then maybe cut his penis off? I'm just kind of trying to figure out what that represented. To me, it's logical to think maybe it represented the fact that he was using that body part with someone that he shouldn't have been. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's true. We don't know if any of these rumors are true or not.
I think I could see another woman cutting off his penis.
Oh, you couldn't see a man doing it?
No.
Saying, you slept with my wife. I'm taking your manhood.
Well, when you say it like that.
I can't see myself doing it, but
Yeah.
I can see somebody doing it.
Yeah. Somebody out there just cringed.
Oh, there should be a lot of people cringing. And just to talk about, how on edge this community was, when there were school events after school, they would essentially lock the kids in until parents arrived to pick them up. They just weren't taking any chances.
Well, clearly we know that women, kids, everybody was fair play to whoever did this.
Yeah,
right?
This murder or murderers had no issue whatsoever, it seems like, killing very small children.
If you can kill a newborn, what's going to stop you from killing anything?
But again, rural area, the police are investigating. You talk about this a lot, Gibbs. They're trying to hold some information back. They're trying not to allow too much information to leak out, but some did. Some of it got out into the public. And some of the information that did, it wasn't always correct. And sometimes there were two versions of the same thing that got out, and they conflicted with each other. There were rumors floating around that Keith died from blunt force trauma to the head. Other rumors that said Keith was dragged behind his car and died from a head injury. There were rumors that surfaced around Elaine and her newborn baby that the baby was actually cut out of her womb.
Yeah.
Instead of, being delivered.
And then there were rumors about Keith's penis being cut off because of some type of satanic ritual.
And then you had people that thought this was the work of a serial killer. And I could see where people would make that leap based on the number of unsolved murders that were on the books and what were, really pretty small counties.
Yeah. And who else could do something so brutal?
You'd have to be a heartless serial killer.
Yeah.
Right. To be able to do something like this. So one of the things we haven't talked about yet is the fact that there were two coroners in this case because the family was found in Jefferson County. They had their own coroner. Keith was found in Franklin County. And of course, they had their own coroner as well. The coroner in Jefferson County was a family physician who just also happened to be the county coroner. And I think in rural counties, you might see this a lot.
I think so, for sure.
You don't have, let's say, a dedicated, this is all I do type of coroner. Sounds like in Jefferson County back in 1987, you might see this physician for a cold in the morning.
Yeah.
And then later on that night, he's going out to a crime scene to see a dead body.
Yeah. That's just how it was back then. Some of these counties in these rural areas, they only had one doctor as well.
So the man's name was Dr. Garrettson. And, this guy had to deal with a lot. Not only the crime, which was brutal, right? The mom, 2 children dead, but he also had to deal with the aftermath of this community. The fact that we were talking about how on edge everyone is. Some people needed medicine, right? To calm their nerves. a lot of people in town couldn't sleep.
I'm thinking there was a lot of prescriptions going out for anxiety medicine.
Yeah, anxiety, sleeping pills, things like that. Then you get to Franklin County, and it was essentially the same thing. Dr. Lewis was the coroner for Franklin County. He was also a family doctor, and he said much of the same types of things, right? He was dealing with cases of mass hysteria. My assumption is he was writing a lot of prescriptions as well, but he was pretty vocal, coming out in the papers and talking about the fact that he really didn't see the need for the type of hysteria that he was seeing. He thought this was an isolated case. He didn't think people needed to be afraid as if there was a serial killer or a boogeyman type of person that was coming for them next.
Right. Calm down, people, I think is what he wanted to say.
Yeah, I think his one quote in the paper was, I believe it was a very personal, deliberate thing. So we've talked about the coroners. Let's talk a little bit about the autopsies. Both reports showed no drugs in any of the victims' systems. So I think you have to ask the question about the marijuana that was found. Was it theirs? Was it not theirs? Did the killer leave it behind?
Yeah. I mean, sounded like it was a small amount.
Or was it theirs and they just hadn't smoked it
in a while?
In a long time? I don't know how long it takes to get out of your system. But
3 days or something like that, I thought. But
is that it?
I thought it was only 3 days, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think it depends on the test, because I think if they pull your hair, they can go back much further than that.
Okay.
The reports also showed no alcohol, which, obviously 2 of these victims are children.
Right.
One of them was a mother at the time. You wouldn't expect her really to be drinking. But Keith didn't have any in his system either. I think we mentioned earlier, Gibbs, that the coroner pegged Keith's time of death within about an hour of his family's deaths. And in the coroner's report on the 3 bodies in the mobile home, it said that they had been deceased for about 12 hours before the sheriff found them. And then most of the stuff we've already talked about, right? Elaine and the kids died from blunt force trauma. They bled out. Keith had 3 gunshot wounds, and also his penis was cut off. You could die from either one of those.
Don't tell me that.
But you know for a fact you can die from your junk being cut off.
I don't ever want that cut off.
No, nobody does, but I think there's quite a bit of blood that you could bleed out pretty easily.
I can imagine so, yeah.
But one of the key points is Elaine had not been sexually assaulted. That was listed in the coroner's report.
I think a key factor if you're investigating the case. I mean, it leads you to certain suspects or away from certain suspects.
I think it's all when a woman is involved, I think it's a key component in any unsolved case.
Sure.
Because you're getting to the motive. What is the motive? Well, one motive possibility is sexual.
Right.
So I think by this, you're ruling that part out. As the investigation went on, investigators followed up on leads. They just really couldn't hone in on any suspects. There was no forced entry to the mobile home. And when the sheriff arrived, the back door was visibly open. The TV, VCR, the camera, all of these were in plain sight. So they pretty much ruled out robbery as a motive for these murders.
Yeah, because even as they went through the mobile home, they found rings and cash.
Things that a robber would have taken, for sure. Now, would they take the VCR? I don't know. But nobody's going to leave behind cash, valuable rings.
You pass cash up, you're putting it in your pocket, right?
The investigators couldn't find a jealous lover. They couldn't find an angry husband. They just couldn't find any of these types of people that wanted to harm Keith or his family. They looked at ties to gambling. One of the things that they investigated is Keith's ties to gambling. They even thought maybe he was running some type of bookie business, because one of the things they found in the mobile home was stacks and stacks of paper with sports scores written on them. And it also included the over-under.
Which is what you would see if you were betting on sports or if you were a bookie.
Yeah. Usually the over-under is something people only care about that bet on sports, but they could never find anything that tied him to any of that. But again, it's very strange. Why write down all these scores of these games? Why put the over-under next to them if you're not either placing bets or taking bets?
Maybe he just wanted to see how good he was.
Maybe.
You know, but they would also look into the occult and clear that as a motive for the murders.
And I don't know how you couldn't, right? We said earlier, what type of individual could commit these types of murders? You'd have to look for some type of cult, some type of serial killer who could kill, a mother, a young son, and a newborn baby, then cut the penis off of a husband.
Very strange.
Very strange. Now, Keith's mom had a theory that at one point she shared with investigators, and it had to do with drugs. Specifically, it had to do with the fact that someone wanted Keith to sell some drugs. He had refused, and these people murdered not only him, but his entire family over this refusal. But again, like everything else, the investigators couldn't find any evidence to support this either.
Yeah, when you think about it, why would a drug dealer want to wipe out a whole family over someone just saying, you know what, I'm not going to sell your marijuana or whatever? And why? And if they did, why would they go to such an extreme method of killing them? I mean, it was really brutal. All they had to do was go in and shoot them.
Yeah, it was, there was overkill.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a term that authorities use sometimes. To me, this was it. This was overkill. If all you wanted to do, I say all, but if the goal was to kill these individuals, you could have done it much easier.
Sure.
In less time with less hassle.
Yeah. And you surely wouldn't have put the mom and the kids in bed and tucked them in. You wouldn't have cared.
No. So this was, it was overkill with the added component of making some of the family members comfortable. It's what makes this family massacre so, what's the word, Gibbs? Compelling. That doesn't seem like the right word. Mystifying. It's why it has a lot of people commenting on it.
Yeah.
On the internet, there's armchair detectives, that really try to analyze this case because it's strange.
I mean, it's riveting, but not in a good way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a good word too. So the investigators have all this information pouring in. They're not really generating any suspects that they can tie to anything. The case is going cold. 4 individuals of a family dead, no one in custody. They had some FBI profilers review the case. They reviewed the site. They reviewed all the evidence. They had some suggestions for investigators, but it really didn't add much to what the sheriff and other agencies already had.
Yeah.
Or had already looked into.
Yeah. Not shedding any new light on anything.
Not breaking, new ground or illuminating people that they hadn't already looked at.
Which is saying a lot, really. I mean, it's saying when you have all those agencies saying, man, we have exhausted avenues and efforts. All our avenues and efforts have been exhausted. That's tough. And for a family member to hear that, it's even tougher.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing is Keith's mom, she would not let up. She stayed on the sheriff. She wanted this solved. She wanted whoever murdered her son, her daughter-in-law, her grandchildren to pay for what they had done.
Sure, yeah.
It wasn't until 1998 that she kind of caught a break. She was able to get the murders showcased on America's Most Wanted.
Pretty popular show at the time.
It was very popular show. John Walsh. That's great exposure for an unsolved case.
Yeah. It didn't get him any good leads, but again, like you said, it's exposure. It keeps the case in front of an audience.
So Mexican-born serial killer Angel Resindez, better known as the railroad killer, the railway killer, the rail car killer. He's a pretty infamous serial killer, one that I know we'll cover on True Crime All the Time. He became a person of interest in these murders after he was arrested in Texas in 1999. And as his moniker suggests, he rode the railroad cars all across the country, but he was known to be in the area where the murders occurred.
So they could kind of place him in Southern Illinois.
Around that time frame, passing by while, hopping trains. He was suspected of a lot of murder. But, at the end of the day, when it comes to the Dardeen family murders, they just couldn't tie him to that. Doesn't mean he wasn't involved.
Right.
Just means that they didn't, have any concrete evidence to conclusively say he did it.
I'm sure they really wanted to. I'm sure that they were just grasping for somehow to make sense out of what happened that night.
Yeah, I'm sure authorities wanted to solve this case very badly. And don't forget, Keith's mom would not let go. She was like a bulldog, I think, in a good way, on investigators saying, you got to keep trying. You can't let this go unsolved. Just keeping it in their minds constantly.
It's probably like that in that movie with the 3 billboards.
Oh, outside of Ebbing, Missouri?
Yeah, with that.
That's such a strange movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I like it, and I don't like it.
It's frustrating.
It's a frustrating movie. The acting is unbelievable.
Sure. Frances McDormand.
Yeah. Ed Harris is in it, I think.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a lot of good actors.
Sure.
But at the end, it's like, Woody Harrelson's in it. At the end, I'm left like wanting something.
Right.
That I didn't get, but I don't think the movie wanted to give it to me.
Right.
And that it's frustrating, but I think it was meant to be that way.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So in 2000, investigators, they got a major shock. It happened during an arrest of a murderer in Del Rio, Texas. It was Tommy Lynn Sells, a guy that you and I profiled, a guy that we talk about quite a bit.
Yeah, we actually do talk about him a lot.
So investigators in Texas have Tommy Lynn Sells. He's awaiting trial for a couple murders and some attempted murders. He knows he's going to get the death penalty. I mean, Tommy Lynn Sells was a horrific killer, remorseless. He just didn't care.
Yeah. And he too liked to ride the rails.
Yeah. Much like, Resindez, he was known to ride the railroad across country. He'd get off, he'd kill people, he'd get back on the railroad and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Very hard to pin a guy like that down. He doesn't have any receipts from filling up his gas tank.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't have credit card receipts that put him
at this restaurant.
Yeah. He's just riding the rail, getting off, finding a house, killing people, taking what he wants, getting back on the railroad and going somewhere else to do it again. He killed a lot of people. But that's the problem, right? With Tommy Lynn Sells, we don't know how many people he actually killed because at a certain point, once Tommy Lynn knew that he was going to die, he started to confess to everything. He confessed to so many murders across the U.S., and just as hard as it would be to catch somebody like that, it's very hard to disprove that they didn't commit a certain murder because you don't know where the heck they were. Again, hard to track a person like that. he confessed to the Dardeen family murders. I mean, this was the shock, right, to the investigation.
Right.
So what Tommy Lynn said was that he met Keith at a local truck stop or a pool hall. That's the thing about Tommy Lynn. He wasn't always real clear in his confessions. But if he really killed as many people as he claims,
right,
it would be hard to keep all that together.
Facts. Yeah.
It really would.
But also it'd be easy to say, knowing that it's in the location it's at, that there's a good chance there's a truck stop nearby, and there's probably a good chance there's a pool hall. You got a 50-50 of getting one of them right.
Yeah. He said that Keith invited him back to the home to have a meal with the family. Now, knowing what we've said about Keith during this time frame, Tommy Lynn Sells does not look like an individual that you want to take home to your wife.
No.
At all. And Keith didn't want anybody in his mobile home.
We know that.
So that's kind of hard to stomach a little bit there. What comes next is even harder to stomach because Tommy said after dinner he was set to leave. Sounds like something Tommy would do, right? Just eat dinner and then I'll be on my way.
I'm going to go. Thanks for the dinner. Appreciate it.
I'm not going to kill everyone I meet. So he's going to leave. But according to him, Keith asked him if he wanted to have a threesome with him and Elaine,
which was
his very pregnant wife.
Exactly.
Elaine.
Yeah.
According to Tommy, he was outraged by the fact that he would be asked to be involved in a three-way, which doesn't seem like something Tommy Lynn Sells would be outraged by. But he says he pulled his gun out, made Keith drive up the road, walked him out in the field. So he shot Keith and removed his penis. Then he went back to the trailer and murdered the entire family. Another issue with Tommy, and we had this when we talked about him in the episode, he changed his story a lot.
He was a flip-flopper.
He was a flip-flopper. First he said he got off the train, walked by the mobile home, saw that it was for sale. He went into town, had some beers. Then later that night, he returned to the home and acted like he was interested in buying it.
Gets him inside the mobile home, right?
Yeah. He said once he got inside, he took control of the family, tied up the wife and the son, and then had Keith drive him to a field where he walked Keith out and cut off his genitals and shot him 3 times. So that's a much different story.
Right.
It's also much more descriptive regarding Keith's murder and more accurate. So
yeah.
Did he change his story because he got better information about certain things? He said he went back to the mobile home, sexually assaulted the wife,
which we know
didn't happen, then beat and killed her, killed the boy and the newborn.
I would say this. I wonder, could she have been sexually assaulted? And then by giving birth, could that erase any evidence of a sexual assault?
I think that's a very good question. I don't know, but I don't think that's out of bounds to bring that up.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know. You and I don't have the expertise.
No.
Only a coroner would be able to probably, or, a doctor or physician would be able to tell you, because you're going to have, I don't want to get too, technical, but you're going to have a lot of tearing.
Sure.
When you deliver that baby, that I would think would be much more traumatic than the tearing that would occur during a sexual assault.
And I guess it's probably looking at the tears on what direction the tears.
Right. And like I said, I don't understand. I don't know. Yeah. So it could get much more scientific. Like you're talking about the direction of the tears. They could be able to figure it out. But I think it's a good question to bring up.
Yeah.
But based on the coroner, if they're correct, she was not sexually assaulted. Tommy Lynn said he cleaned up a little bit. He drove the family car to Benton and he caught a train. Now they sent a deputy sheriff to interview Tommy Lynn Sells in Texas. And Tommy Lynn Sells had a lot of authorities come visit him in Texas because of all these murders that he confessed to. I think it's one of the things that he liked. I think it's one of the reasons why he did it, because he knew he was going to die. It didn't matter if they convicted him of, 200 more murders, but some bigwig's going to come down and talk to me, and I get to spout off and run my mouth and tell stories. I think that was a part of it for him. It's just sad because there's no way to know how much of what Tommy Lynn Sells has confessed to is true. Now, we know some of them, right? Because there's evidence that ties him to the murders, but there's so many more confessions that he just said, "Oh, I did this."
Yeah.
And really nothing that ties him to it.
Is this similar to the game that Henry Lee Lucas played?
Yeah, I think very similar.
Yeah.
Again, a guy that confessed to a bunch of crimes that, couldn't be corroborated. Why did he do it? Because he had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
He wanted to, I think in some instances, he was able to get out. They drove him around maybe. I could be confusing him with other people, but so back to this deputy sheriff, right? He interviews Sells in Texas. He came out and said that Tommy Lynn knew some details of the crime that had been kept confidential, but there were some problems as well. Tommy Lynn couldn't say what direction Elaine was facing in the bed. He didn't know if Keith had been shot in the car or in the field. So these were some pretty big things that you would think he would know if he was the killer.
Yeah.
And would be able to tell police.
He wanted to show the Illinois police that he could prove more, but for him to do that, he wanted them to take him up to Illinois, to the murder site, so he could give them better descriptions on what occurred. But he was a death row inmate in Texas, and they weren't going to let him leave. He was not going to leave Texas, so he was not going to be able to get up to Illinois to prove anything.
Tommy Lynn Sells was never charged with the Dardeen murders. It was like some of the other things. They just didn't have enough evidence to, tie him to it. It's not enough for him to just say, "I did it." Right? There's got to be some corroborating evidence. Yeah, the deputy said he knew some things that he thought were confidential. Most of the things he talked about were things that were, out, known by the general public. And like we said, Tommy was known for claiming that he committed a lot of murders. And I think you mentioned it, Gibbs. One of the things was he thought maybe there was a chance that he could get out from under the death penalty in Texas if he could get to a state where they didn't have the death penalty and was convicted there. But Texas was never going to let him go.
They had their hooks into him and they're going to hold on.
Yeah, like you said, they were never going to let him out to travel, to do anything. Now, Tommy did say this in an interview in 2010. "I know people got their doubts. They say there's no physical evidence tying me to Dardeens, but there wasn't for any of them because they wasn't looking for me. I moved. I was always a transient." So, number one, English, not his first language.
Don't say it. Don't you box me in with him.
Not yours either, but you're not quite Tommy Lynn Sells.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Aside from the grammatical errors, I really didn't even understand what he was saying. I think what he's trying to say is the reason why they couldn't find any evidence linking me to the crimes is because I was in and out. I didn't leave any evidence. I wasn't there. I didn't really get it. Other than the fact that he was a transient, we know that. Doesn't mean that you still can't leave evidence behind if you were at the crime scene.
Exactly.
I think most investigators and Keith's family, Elaine's family, they doubted Tommy's confession. It just didn't make sense to them. And I think we outlined the things that probably would have not made sense, right? The fact that Keith would have invited Tommy over, any mention of a threesome at that point with Elaine, who was very, very pregnant.
Right. None of it added up.
we said Keith wouldn't let anyone near their home, let alone a wandering, transient person like Tommy Lynn Sells. But there was one family member at least who did think Tommy was the murderer, and it was Keith's mom. But she wanted one thing from Tommy Lynn Sells. She wanted him to confess to her face to face and apologize. He refused. I don't know why he refused. I don't know what harm it would have done.
Right.
But, the Tommy Lynn Sells saga is no more because he was executed in 2014. And Keith's mom eventually changed her mind and now does not believe that Tommy was the killer. The investigators, they really don't have any good leads at this point that we know of. This case is pretty cold. Some people feel Tommy was the killer. Some people feel it was, Resindez. But I think the majority of people feel that it was somebody closer. I don't know how close, but closer than transient railroad car hoppers. But somebody that got away with these 4 murders, and maybe some of the others that we talked about in the county, because there was a rash of them. We haven't talked much about evidence because I don't think there is a lot. And I think that lack of evidence has made this case difficult to solve over the years. It was a very brutal crime. And if it's not a robbery, it's not drug related or anything, related to any type of criminal activity, why so violent?
Yeah, I just don't understand how it had to go the direction it went. I mean, it kind of circles back to maybe it was a crime of passion. I mean, that's the one thing for me that still kind of fits. If it's not Tommy Lynn,
yeah,
crime of passion, because like you said, why would you cut off his penis?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was involved with somebody else. Maybe that person was in love with Elaine.
Well, that's okay. Because I was going to ask, okay, that makes sense for maybe why Keith was murdered, but why murder the rest of his family?
Yeah.
Obviously, if he's sleeping with someone, they either don't know about it or didn't have anything to do about it, didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know. It's just, this is one of those cases where you can go around and around. You can go this way and that way. You can try to make some things fit.
Right.
You can try to make Tommy Lynn Sells fit if you want. It's hard. It's hard to do. But there's no way that you can conclusively say that he didn't do it.
No, you can't box him out of it.
And that's the problem, right? You don't know who did it, but you can't rule out, this person or that person or, so everything's kind of on the table
and
at this point.
And I think that's why this is that's why this one has been unsolved for as long as it has.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a tough one to solve. It was 32 years ago. You got to keep that in mind. A lot of time has gone by. So.
And if it was Tommy Lynn, he's dead.
Yeah. If it was Resindez, he's dead.
Yeah.
He was executed by lethal injection in Texas as well. Both those guys.
Yeah.
Once Texas gets you,
you're done.
You're done for eventually.
Yeah.
Might take a while, but they'll get you. But that's it. That's the Dardeen family massacre. We got some voicemails.
Let's hear them.
You want to hear those? They can't be near as gruesome as the murders we just talked about.
Boy, if they are,
we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. It's Kristen from Chicago. Stay-at-home mom with 3 boys that drives me pretty much insane. So most of the time when I'm doing housework or just menial parenting tasks like laundry, dishes, cooking, I'm totally listening to you guys. And it really helps me focus and try to remember what's really important in life. So just wanted to call and let you guys know and say thank you. I love your podcast. You guys totally remind me of my parents. So anyway, just wanted to say I love your podcast. Talk to you guys soon. Keep your own time a ticking.
Did she just say that we remind her of her parents? Or did I hear it like I remind her of her dad and you remind her of her mom?
I knew you were going to say that. She didn't say what was what. And maybe she has 2 dads.
She could.
You don't know.
I'm the cooler one.
You're the cool dad?
I don't know if I have to pick one.
And I'm the disciplined dad?
You are.
But we appreciate that.
Hi, Hi, my name is Annie. I'm calling from Sand Springs, Oklahoma, in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, I wanted to let you guys know that I am a new listener. I have listened to all of the available unsolved cases on Pandora, which I think is fantastic. And I am now going through the regular ones, or the solved ones. I'm on the BTK third episode right now, so I haven't gone very far, but it is disturbing. This one is freaking me out. I'm having to take a break. Like, I'm listening to one and then having to take a break and then listening to another and having to take a break because it is just freaking me out. The fact that this guy was able to get away with it for 30 years is ridiculous. Anyway, I wanted to say thanks for all you guys do. I really appreciate it, and keep your own time ticking.
You know, I would say that BTK was probably one of my favorite episodes that we did. I really got into that case with you.
Yeah, I remember we both did a lot of research for that one. I think what was interesting about the BTK, I mean, obviously he was a sadistic, dude, but there was a lot of really good audio.
Yeah.
Remember, he talked in court a lot. There was a lot of audio available for that episode, and I think it added a lot to it. But, what's interesting about that, she started with Unsolved. Yeah. I think the majority of people do it the other way around. They start with TCAT, and then once they're done there, they come over to Unsolved. She started with Unsolved first.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Cara from New Zealand. I am a big fan, and I listen to your podcast as I'm out running, training for half marathons. But as winter's coming on here and I'm running in the dark, I must say it's kind of creepy running along hearing about serial killers while I'm running in the dark with just my headlamp going. So, yeah, but I love your podcast, and I just want to make a suggestion, maybe some New Zealand crimes. We're an awesome country, but unfortunately we have had some bad things happen here. One is from the city that I live in, Christchurch. It's a historical one. The Parker Home murders. It's two young girls who murdered one of the girls' mothers. It's a really amazing case, and Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings fame actually made a movie about it, if you want to do some research. And another really famous case here from New Zealand is from my hometown of Blenheim, the Ben Smart and Olivia Hope murders. And they're really famous in New Zealand because the person was actually convicted of their murder and they never found the bodies. So there's quite a lot of controversy over those. Anyway, I just want to say I love you guys. I love your podcast. You make my long runs so much more fun. And keep up the good work and keep your own time ticking.
Wow, some great suggestions. We have got to do a case from New Zealand. We have a lot of listeners from New Zealand.
Yeah.
We've been to Australia, a few times.
We have.
A number of times, but we have not been to New Zealand. So we're going to make that a priority.
So time to go visit our Kiwis?
Yep. And some good suggestions there. We'll look into those.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. This is Faith from Oklahoma, and I just love you guys. And I'm totally Team Mike because, well, you just can't make me choose because you can't have one without the other. Although I gotta say, Gibby, you are just adorable. And I gotta ask, I just imagine there's quite a few times that you're blushing. I can just picture it. Anyway, you're just adorable, and I love you guys. Anyway, y'all have a great day and keep your own time ticking.
So she's Team Mike, but she has to say she loves you, Gibby. So really, she's Team Gibby. Come on now.
It's kind of my way of getting back to you on TCAT voicemails when they said they can't be one or the other, but then they're like talking about Team Fergie off the bat.
Well, what are you going to do?
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Nicole from Portland. It's Sunday, and I'm just waiting for you guys to release your new podcast. I wanted to give you a call to just say how much I enjoy listening to you all. It's always interesting, the cases that you come up with, even the ones I've heard before. You guys have a new take on them. I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys. I'm discovering things with you guys. I love the banter. It's great. I guess that's all. You guys, I hope you're having a great day. And gotta say, Mike, I'm sorry. I'm still Team Gibby. And keep your own time ticking.
She's the best ever.
But again, says, I'm sorry I have to say, When you say that, you know you shouldn't be saying it.
Yeah, it's
because
like,
it's not
like
right.
It's like discounting it.
It's
it's like, sorry, sir, I really wanted to help you, but my hands are tied.
but
I'll take it. I
hate to say this, Gibbs, but I'm a crack addict. It's like you shouldn't. It's something you shouldn't be doing if you have to say it like that. If you have to preface it.
Hey, I'll take it any way I can.
I'm just kidding.
I'm happy that they're happy.
I think when people say that they think I'm going to feel bad, so they say I hate to say it for my benefit.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad. Now, why you choose to think that, that's your own, your own cross to bear, I guess.
The
if
fact
you
that
can't
you
live
cry
without
yourself.
you can't live without those 6 words that Gibby says in an episode.
Hey, I moved it up to 8.
No, Unsolved, you definitely talk more.
But I feel bad you cry yourself to sleep every night. It's okay.
I do. I can barely get to sleep.
People think it might be the Gibby thing. I think it's more the fact that you're thinking about all the editing that you have to do after we record. That's what makes you cry yourself to sleep.
That's the only thing that would make me cry myself to sleep. Not that people are Team Gibby. I like that part because I created Gibby. Let's just put that. Let's just say that.
Are you the puppet master?
I'm pulling the strings on that from the very beginning.
This is good.
All right. Before Gibby and I get into it, we better get out of here. So that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So from Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Hey, TCAT fans, don't forget about Aunt Fanny's Pest Control. Keeping those nasty pests out of your house shouldn't mean bombing everything with harsh chemicals. Aunt Fanny's Pest Solutions kill them with kindness using essential oils and plants, not the scary stuff. And it's safe for humans and pets alike. Use coupon code TCAT at checkout for 20% off your entire order at auntfannys.com/bugs.